Hello everybody, Princess Bear here, and we're back at EPCOT because it's time for a tour. You asked for more of these.
It's our first time ever going behind the scenes.
Yes, we wanted to do this for a while, and now it's time to go plant some seeds.
Be sure to enjoy living with the land and subscribe.
You heard the girl.
So we're going to stick to the right-hand wall over here, go all the way down to the end, and there will be a door that we go through, and then we'll have a not very quiet to get going for our tour, all right? It was written on the door, so that is how they know. Integrated pest management. So when you have a greenhouse, you are going to get pests. It is inevitable. It's just what happens. So to help combat those pests, we use something called integrated pest management. So there's 4 kinds of pests that we focus on here at the land. We've got fungi, bacteria, viruses, and bugs. And then there's 4 kinds of integrated pest management we use to help combat those things. The first is cultural control, and that is by making an environment where bugs can't really get into or other pests can't get into. So when we go into the greenhouses, you notice there's a wind curtain that blows air on you. That's because we're kind of getting rid of all those animals coming in, right? Second type of control is physical control. That would be like if we see a leaf that has a lot of aphids on it, we'll cut the leaf off, and magically the plant has no more aphids on it. So it works pretty well, so just physically removing those bugs. The third way is chemical. We do use pesticides at the land once in a while. It is the very last resort. We try not to as much as we can. When we use pesticides, we use what are called soft pesticides. So it's going to be insecticidal soaps and horticultural oils. Rosemary oil is a really, really popular one. And it kind of works like a bug spray, so the bugs are just like, I hate that. The last kind of control is biological pest control, which is my favorite because it's using what Mother Nature gave us to combat those pests. That's what we're going to focus on in here. Behind me, I've got a couple of cages. On the left are leaf miner flies, on the right are parasitoid wasps. If you would like to get closer, you can, as long as we do not touch the cages. Sometimes it's easy to look up to the light. You can see them flying around. They are very small. They are all full grown. It's pretty awesome in there. So, at Disney, we talk a lot about storytelling, and we love our heroes and our villains. So, between the leaf miner fly and our parasitoid wasp, oh, you got your villain shirt on, perfect. Which do we think is going to be the villain of our story? The fly or the wasp? Fly. Everybody's too smart for me. It is the fly. Parasitoid wasp sounds really, really scary, but the fly is actually the one that causes a lot of the damage, and the parasitoid wasp helps us out. I've actually got a video to show us how it works. So for a minute, we're going to just hear the beautiful music of the land. Vibe. And then we'll see our leaf miner fly right here. So this is a female leaf miner fly. They can lay about 200 eggs in a single day. When they lay their eggs, they do not lay them on top of the leaf. They actually lay them inside the leaf. The leaf is kind of like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, where there's 2 pieces of bread on the outside and the peanut butter and jelly is in the middle. That's where she wants to lay her eggs because that's one of the the most nutritious part of the leaf. So this is what she's doing right now. She's using her ovipositor part of her body to lay those eggs on the inner part of the leaf. And then that way when the baby hatches, they'll have a lot of good stuff to eat. So she's going to lay her egg. She might take a drink of any of the stuff that comes out. And then hatches the little leaf miner larva. They get these names because if you look at their mouth parts, it looks like a pickaxe. So they actually make mines going throughout the leaves. Isn't that crazy? So they'll make these mines throughout the leaves, and it causes a lot of damage. In a minute, we're going to see a time lapse. It's over 8 days of what can happen with leaf miner damage. It starts out not too bad, but then as the days go on, it gets a little bit worse, and then it gets a little bit worse, and then it gets really, really, really bad. So not very good for our plants, right? This is where the IPM comes in. So enters our parasitoid wasp. They're actually able to sense the pheromones of the little larva in the leaves. So they'll find the larva, and they'll literally lay an egg inside the leaf miner larva. So she can also lay up to 200 eggs a day, as long as there's a larva there for her. So what happens is, the larva is going to do something called pupating. That's kind of like when a caterpillar goes into a chrysalis. Their next stage is a pupa. When they're ready to pupate, they actually fall out of the leaves. Little leaf miner larvas will fall out of the leaves. We'll see that in a minute here. There he goes! He's so close! I believe in you, buddy. Oh, he made it, thank goodness. So you can see that little dark spot there. That is where the little egg is of the wasp. So what happens is when they pupate, the parasitoid wasp will hatch, it goes through its life cycle, it eats the inside of the pupa, and instead of hatching a new leaf miner fly, we hatch out a parasitoid wasp. Pretty crazy, right? They are native here to Florida, so it is a natural thing that does occur. So if these ever got outside, it would not be a big deal. We're not introducing invasive species. So how we use this at the land? We cultivate both the fly and the wasp. Since the fly is an essential part of the wasp's life cycle, in order to keep having flies on hand, we have to, or keep having wasps on hand, we also have to have flies on hand so that they can complete that life cycle, right? Once the leaf miner larvae have been infected, over here, when they're pupating and falling out of those leaves, they're collecting these little cups. We put a seal on them, and eventually, little flies or little swabs will come out. See the one in there? See the pupa in here? This is the wasps there. And so what's cool about that is all we have to do is release those cups in the greenhouses by the plants, and then they can do their job, making sure they're parasitizing all of the pupa. So once you've gotten a good look, we don't mind taking a step back so our new friends can also get nice. So one of the ways that we help our plants grow the most efficiently, especially when they're babies like the ones in here, are we give them 2 red lights because that simulates the root growth, and 1 blue light because that simulates the shoot growth, so that they can grow big and strong. Perfect for our Mickey's Mini Gardens, which we have at the desk for sale at the end of the tour if you're interested. This biotechnology lab is in partnership with the USDA. So we are working for crop improvement practices. Unfortunately, as our population in the world gets bigger, so does our hunger crisis. So one of the ways that we have learned to help is by making plants that are going to be more efficient at growing in smaller places and producing more food. One project they're working on here is a dwarf plum tree. So they're taking a plum tree that's usually a really big tree that takes a lot of space and only flowers once or twice a season, and they've made it the size of a tomato plant, flowering continuously, and it needs less resources. So places like deserts, or maybe really, really cool places like Antarctica, or maybe on the moon, you'll be able to have this dwarf plum tree to continually produce food for you, which I think is really, really cool. The other thing that's done in this lab is tissue culturing. That's what this video is playing up here. That's how we make them in these mini gardens. Plants have really special cells. They've got about 3 times the genetic data in them that animal cells do. They're what we call totipotent, because no matter when you plant a plant cell, it has all genetic data for the whole plant. So any cell can become a different part of the plant. So if you do tissue culturing like this here, where you just put into little pieces of plant into what we call an agar solution, you have work in the lab, it's usually a seaweed jello with a lot of nutrients in it. The bottom of the plant cells are going to say, hey, I need to become a root. The top one's going to be like, oh, I need to become a stem, or I need to become a leaf. And they all have a genetic data to do that. So potentially, you could grow a redwood tree from 1 plant cell. It is possible. It takes a long time, but you can do it. So that's what we're doing here with our Mickey's Mini Gardens. Again, completely sterile environment. If you are interested in purchasing one of those at the end of the tour, again, they're at the tour desk. They're $14 a piece. They're very, very cute, and we can give you more information over there. So the question was, at the end of the right to the machine that's like shaking like this, right? What's that doing? It is not for show. Some plants do better in liquid agar versus solid agar, but it needs to continue to move so it doesn't solidify. So that machine that's going like this is making sure those plants are getting the agar they need on all of their roots. Pretty awesome, right? All right, my friend, we are going to go to the greenhouses now. It's Noah, that's what we're all here for. So we're gonna head down this way. It's the last greenhouse stop of the land ride. This is where we are growing plants in a lot of interesting and creative ways that help save space. Now when plants are growing, you've probably all heard they need sunlight and soil and water, right? I hate to burst your bubble. That's actually not completely true. Plants do need 5 things to grow, and to remember what they are, we use the moniker lawns, L-A-W-N-S. Does anyone have an idea what the L stands for? Right, you got it, right? Sunlight, you can use it, but like we said in the biotechnology lab, we don't need to use sunlight, we can just use light. What about our A? Air, very good! So plants actually need CO2 and oxygen both. Because their cycle will change in the middle of the night where they will actually uptake oxygen like us and breathe out CO2. Plants are wacky, it's awesome. So air, necessary. What about W? Water, that's the same changes. As you can see, we're watering a lot of the plants right now. What about N? Nutrients. Yeah, they need something to help them grow big and strong. And then when we eat the plants, we get those same nutrients. What about S?
Space?
Soil, space, not quite. It's actually support. So, LAWS, light, air, water, nutrient support are only things that plants need. Soil's a really interesting guess because at the plant here, we actually do not use any type of soil. Everything is grown what's called hydroponically. We might use a medium like rock wool, which is like cotton candied volcanic rock, or perlite, or coconut core to help grow the plants in for support. But none of the stuff that we grow plants in has any sort of nutrients, so the nutrients all come from somewhere else. And I'll tell you why. With our first hydroponic system over here, it's called aeroponics. We're growing some kale right now. It looks really, really good. Let's use our LAWNS to try to figure out where everything is. So where's our light coming from? The sun. This time it is actually sunlight. What about the A, air? It's just around us. Very good. Don't overthink it. You're doing great. As you can see on this system in particular, the plants will actually leave the conveyor for a little bit and their roots get aerated out in the open. So it's going to get all of that air. What about the water? Yeah, it's in this big kind of conveyor part here. And listen, you can hear the misters inside that are spraying water directly onto the roots. What about the N? Nutrients. They are in the water. You nailed it. So the nutrients are inside the water. And then what about S, support? The sticks. Very easy, right? So as you can see, no soil involved, still can grow pretty big plants. And that nutrient solution is actually so good, it grows plants 2 to 3 times faster than they would grow if they were just insipid. So pretty crazy. Another system that we use is our aquaponic system, which is across the flute here. At the bottom we have tilapia, which is a really popular food fish. And on top, we've got some different kinds of basil growing right now. So how this system works, fish, they eat a lot, which means they also have to poop, right? Fish poop has a lot of ammonia in it. So what happens is the fish poop in the water, goes through a filtration system, and ammonia is exposed to helpful bacteria that turns into a nitrate. After it turns into a nitrate, the nitrates are then uptaken by the plants in the water as it flows down to the gutter system we've got up here, and that clean water goes back to the fish. So if you're talking about water conservation and growing in places that don't have a lot of space, this system is awesome because it's completely closed. You don't have to add water very often, and you're growing 2 crops at once. You have your plants up top and your fish on the bottom. So this is a really good solution for those types of places. Kind of awesome, right? Alright, my friends, we're going to wave bye to tilapia and all of our fans. And before we get too far, I do want to show you my favorite plants in all of the greenhouses. We're going to gather around. We're going to say hi to Stanley over here. Stanley's very cute. He's called a Mimosa pudica plant. And Emma, do you mind being my helper for a minute? I'm going to let you break a rule. And I want you to give Stanley a high five for me. Look what happened! Try it again. Do it right here. See how the leaves closed? If anybody wants to try touching Stanley, you're welcome to. So Stanley's also called a sensitive plant. So these plants will actually take water and bring them from their leaves into their stems in order to close their leaves for a couple of reasons. Number one, if there is something trying to eat Stanley, that looks a lot less appetizing. And also if your food is moving, I don't know about you, I stop eating my food when it starts moving, okay? The second is when it rains. So I'm going to shake Stanley. It is okay, he gets this every single day, he likes it. And I'm going to show you what happens during a rainstorm. So all the leaves close up, right? But if you look down into the pot, the roots are much more exposed now. So most of the pudica plants live in a lot of places that have wet and dry seasons. So during the dry seasons, they need to get all the water they can. By closing the leaves and exposing their roots, they can uptake all that water. Isn't that so cool? So don't worry, Stanley will open up again in about 10 more minutes. So we'll leave him be for now. We're going to keep walking down this way. Past our further grow system. There are 36 plants in one column. Out here at the land, we grow 150 different only 1% of Disney World's demand for food. So we do give a lot of our produce to restaurants. However, we cannot supply with everything. So we go to Garden Grill, Sunshine Seasons, Chico, or Coral Reef. Those are 4 of the more popular places they have. If you want to all kind of gather around, make a big view over here. We've got a water cooler if anybody is thirsty. Now, if anybody's interested in growing their own plants at home using hydroponics, you can actually do a hydroponic grow tank like this one. We've got some chives on top here. They're floating in polystyrene and that rock wool, which is like that, again, cotton candy volcanic.
For your safety, please remain fully seated at all times. Parents, please supervise your children.
So this is all the nutrient solution that it's all floating in. We've also got an air stone in there to help aerate the water. If you want to learn more about how to grow that system, I've actually got handouts here. So you can try doing it at home if anybody is interested. It is optional. I know if you get past something, you're like, oh, I don't know. Completely optional, don't worry. There's also kits that you can get online to make a hydroponic system. So you can do it either way. And let's do that. Now, like I said, we do produce about 30,000 pounds of produce every single year. Of those 3,000 pounds, about 10,000 pounds is cucumbers. I know that we've all heard about the land's famous cucumbers, right? So we are now going to try those famous cucumbers in the land. Does anybody here not like cucumbers? It's the first year I've had where no one has said yes. That's okay. So we are all going to enjoy these cucumbers. The people who don't like cucumbers, they actually tend to like ours because our cucumbers are picked fresh. Grocery stores tend to pick theirs a little bit early, and that's because they last longer on shelves that way. But because we pick ours right when they're ripe from this morning at the greenhouse next door, they actually taste a lot more fresh and a lot better. In addition, does anybody here ever eat cucumbers and it makes them burp? This is something that I've learned before. It's the seeds actually that will make you burp. There's a chemical inside of them. These cucumbers are going to eat are the Davida variety. They are an English variety of cucumber. They've got really, really thin skin, and they have virtually no seeds. So believe it or not, it is a burpless variety of cucumber, which are words I never imagined I would ever say in my life.
May include innovative ideas like this vertical growing system.
As you finish your cucumber, hold on to that tooth there. Oh my gosh, the question is with the aquaponic system, where does the hydrogen go? So it all goes to the aeration tower, and so oxygen is inserted in there so they can all combine together to do whatever it needs to do. So everything works in this closed system. We're going to head to the next greenhouse over here. We also named this greenhouse the string greenhouse because a lot of the support we use here is made of string. Now you might have just heard that popping sound a couple seconds ago that we call the heartbeat of the greenhouses here at the land because that is our nutrient solution at work. If you look on this side, we've got, there it goes again, we've got the ingredients that we use in these nutrients tanks and the tanks right behind them. When that popping occurs, it's actually inserting the nutrients into the water and then sending that all out to all the plants here. They're all on a timer, and it's all very specific so we don't over or underwater any of the plants. There's also sensors involved as well to make sure that everything is getting exactly what it is. Over here, we've got our mini green system. This is where we grow lots of different kinds of lettuce. Have you ever had like a spring mix salad or mini greens? This is kind of what it is. It's very, very young greens, harvested around 5 weeks old. These are on a polystyrene plate as well, floating in that nutrient solution, just like the hydroponic grow tank that we saw. But over here is where we've got the really, really fancy microgreens. So microgreens are very popular with chefs because all the flavor from the entire plant are in that one tiny little leaf. If any of you go to Food and Wine today and you have something with microgreens on it, it probably is from the land, these microgreens. We produce a lot of them. I encourage you, before you eat the whole thing in one bite, and I know it's tempting because it's so delicious, try the microgreen by itself, and you're going to notice the entire flavor of that is in that one little plant, which is crazy, right? I think it's crazy. Under here, we've got little baby ones, just planted today. So by the end of the day, those will have sprouted. It looks like basil. It is Italian basil. Look at that. All right, friends, we're going to keep walking down this way. We've got a bunch of tomatoes that you can see growing. Now these are a lot of tomato plants all growing in a very small space. So when we're talking about saving space in a greenhouse for places that don't have a lot of space to spare, this is a great way to do it. So lead and lower systems work by planting a bunch of these plants in a row. In here we've got that perlite, that volcanic like popcorn rock. And what happens is, as the tomato plant grows, we wrap string around it, and then it gets a zip line all the way down. It's the world's slowest zip line. The plant growing out of this current first pot right now is back to here. So it shows you how long that stem really is. This system is also great when it comes to harvesting because all of the fresh fruit is at the bottom. So when we are horticulture associates, some of the hardest working people that we've got at the land are picking all of the fruit. They don't have to reach up and out and down. It's a lot easier on their bodies to just go at one level. So that's what this is really great for. We're going to keep walking. Make sure you stay behind that white line.
Some of our best ideas have been inspired by nature, like these fruit and vegetable trees. By growing these ground plant fruit, you can increase
Anybody?
yield.
Are tomatoes trees?
These crops,
Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no.
in fact, these fruit
Looks like a tree, right? But they are not trees. So we have just trained this tomato tree to grow in a tree formation. And that way, again, all the right fruit falls to one level, so it's very easy to pick, right? In addition, it also is not a tree because there's no bark on it. So if it has no bark, it is not considered a tree. This is one of my favorite plants to get in here because I feel like it'd be really cute to have like a date underneath it. So the question I just got is that we have a world record for tomato plant. That is true. It's not this particular one. There was a year that we grew one tomato plant in this tomato tree formation. It got to be about 600 square feet. So it was the largest tomato plant grown in a year. And it produced 32,000 tomatoes, which is the most tomatoes produced in a year. And to put that in perspective, it's about 1,000 pounds of tomatoes. It's a lot of tomatoes from one plant.
Some of our best ideas have been inspired by nature, like these fruit and vegetable trees.
I'll show you our next hydroponic system. This system is called the NFT system. That stands for Nutrient Film Technique, not the other thing. So NFT systems work by having gutters like this that we plant little tiny lettuces in. At the very top is a little tiny hole. That little hole has a hose going through it with nutrient solution. That nutrient solution creates a film at the bottom of the gutter, which is where it gets nutrient film technique. The plants uptake what they need, but their roots aren't soaked, so that's really good. They're not being overwatered. All of the water is then collected in a sump at the bottom. The sump recycles all the water up to here where we do some UV filtration. It goes through the chilling system and then back out to all the lettuce. Now you might be wondering, why on earth are you chilling the water for your plants? That seems a little extra. And it's not because Disney is extra. We are, but not for this. The reason that we chill the lettuce water is because lettuce is a cold weather crop. If you plant lettuce in Florida in October, it's going to flower really fast and the leaves are going to get really, really bitter. And that is not going to be a pleasant sensation for anybody. So instead, by chilling the water, we trick the lettuce into thinking it's not Florida in October, it's like a really nice fall outside. And that gives us a really good taste of lettuce that we like to enjoy. This lettuce does go to a lot of our restaurants here, including Garden Grill, Sunshine Seasons, Chico, and the Coral Reef. Each section of the NFT system has about 500 heads of lettuce in it. They harvest one section of that every single week. So 2,000 heads per month. It's about 27,000 heads of lettuce a year. That's a lot of lettuce. My favorite fact is it is still not enough to feed the manatees at the seas. They actually eat more than that. So we go to the restaurants instead. The manatees get their lettuce off of the truck because you can't keep up with them. We're going to keep walking this way. We can wait by the cucumbers that you eat here. This greenhouse has sand. Now, if you are somebody who works in soils, you're going to be really angry right here. Now, if I said we do not use soil, and you're like, Abby, sand is soil. That is true if you study soils. However, by our definition, soils are different kinds of substances that give nutrients to plants. And sand does not give any kind of nutrients to our plants, so we do not consider it a soil. They still are growing hydroponically. The sand is simply support for all those plants. This is what we call a drip irrigation system. So underneath the sand, they have this drip tape. There's little holes in it, kind of like those hoses you can use to water your grass. We plant the roots of the plant directly on top of all of these holes. And that way, that we are not wasting any water or solution on the plant. We're making sure that it's going directly into where it's supposed to. And that helps our plants grow nice and strong. Behind me, in front of you here, is a plant called Casa Banana. Has anybody ever heard of this plant before? I also had not heard of it until I started working at the land. It's a very interesting one. It is actually a type of melon. There's one growing right here. When it gets to be full size, it'll become a really pretty red gorgeous, right? And it tastes a little bit like if you listen, I bet you'll find out. Can you tell that I work in education a lot? It tastes a little bit like honeydew and cantaloupe all at the same time, but a much lighter version. There's only 3 Casa Banana plants growing this entire thing. And you'll notice we've got a lot of flowers right now. Now what's really cool about Casa Banana is that they actually have one plant that grow male and female flowers. So stick around the plant you see. We've got male and female plants that each will grow their own types of flowers. We've got plants like Casa Banana that will grow male and female flowers. We have plants like vanilla and dragon fruit that have male and female parts inside the same flower. So we have about pollination. We need to pollinate plants in order to get some kind of fruit back off of it. We do it all by hand here. So once in a while we can do by wind with the fans that are across the way, but by hand is the most popular practice. This type of plant, we have male and female flowers on. Female flowers have the big bulb behind them. That's what turns into the fruit. Male flowers just look like a regular flower on the stem. So they can tell the difference between them. Pretty interesting, right? Later we'll see some other examples of the other 2 types of plants. Alright everybody, we have all stand up. I know it's the worst part of the tour is standing. On our right we've got some fig trees here. If you've ever had a fresh fig, they are delicious. However, they're only good for about 2 days, so you have to pick them really, really fast or they go bad. We also have some coffee trees over here. I don't know about any of you. I am not a coffee drinker, but I'm sure there's at least one in this group, right? Yeah, several, right? Coffee is a really interesting plant. It is a tree. It does have true bark. And it grows these little cherries. If you look underneath, you can kind of see the cherries a little bit better. They could be green if they're not ripe and red if they are. Each cherry has 2 beans in it. It takes about 80 beans to make 1 cup of coffee. So if you're ever wondering why is this so expensive, that's probably why. In addition, coffee unfortunately is one of the top causes of deforestation, especially in the Amazon region. So one of the ways that we can help is by buying shade-grown coffee. When they grow shade-grown coffee, they actually plant the trees in between already existing trees. So they have to go, when they're harvesting, they just walk through the rainforest and pick. The other way you can do it is by harvesting, or by using Rainforest Alliance certified coffee. So you see a little green tree frog on the coffee box. That's a really good thing. It means that no additional rainforest was cut down to grow that coffee. So I encourage you all to look for that. And don't worry, Starbucks is all Rainforest Alliance certified coffee, so you can still go to Starbucks. Or Caribou if you're from Minnesota like me, which is the better one, but don't go to Starbucks all that. We'll keep walking around this way to our winter melon. We are going to kind of walk and talk about this one. In the back corner, that is the largest winter melon fruit we've got right now. Winter melon does not have a lot of flavor to it, so it uptakes flavor really well, so it's really popular to be mixed in with things. It also can grow really, really big. So this winter melon at the back corner here is only about 45 pounds. The record here at the land is a 90-pound winter melon. So it's only half as big as it can get. And if you look inside the little pots, you'll notice some of our IPM. Those are the little bugs that are doing their jobs. We also have back some roses. Feel free to stop and smell the roses if you like. The roses are actually edible. So like I said, all the plants in here are edible, except for Stanley, that's never left touching. So for roses, you can actually candy the flowers, and they taste really nice. Or you can use the buds for rose kits. These really popularly in teas, as well as in cookery. here uses a zest. Right in front of me here for irrigation system for our 10-foot greenhouse. Each of these hoses has specific plants that it goes to. If something is currently being watered, the little yellow part will stick straight up. If nothing's being watered, everything is down, just like it is now. All of these are on a timer so that nothing is over or underwater. And all of that is controlled through this brown box right here. This is the computer that controls all of the timing for watering throughout the greenhouse. And there's one guy who's in charge of it and does a really good job. We're going to go to our aqua cell next. If you notice that your whistling is kind of quiet, now is when I would turn it up because it gets pretty loud in there. There is some running water that will distract it. Number one is provide a lot of food for a lot of people. About 50% of all of the fish and seafood that we eat comes from aquaculture. It's a very sustainable way to go from those cows. So unfortunately, because our oceans are they are being impacted by overfishing, fishing incorrectly or not sustainably, and it's depleting the populations. By using aquaculture, we are able to grow these same kinds of fish, different kinds of crop, but in a way that is sustainable and not really and we do rely on them. Coral reefs are actually the second largest carbon dioxide sinker after ozone sinker after forests. So without coral reefs, our way of life will be changing. So we need to do the best we can to be sustainable. If you're wondering if your seafood you're eating is sustainable, there's a really great website from the Monterey Bay Aquarium called Seafood Watch, and they can filter you out by region and tell you what is the seafood that you're eating is sustainable. So that's what I just feel. We're going to keep walking by our different kinds of fish farms here in South Tilapia. Again, for conversation. Are grown in the tropics greenhouse. It is the most plentiful region in the world to grow things because it is hot all the time. They always get plenty of rain, and you don't have to worry about snow. So, Florida. In the center of our dome here, we do have breadfruit growing, and then just to the left of that, we've got jackfruit. Has anybody ever eaten jackfruit before? I love jackfruit. It is so good. This is what it looks like when it's open. It's actually a really popular vegan substitute for pulled pork because it uptakes flavor really, really well. So if you've ever gotten a chance to try jackfruit tacos, delicious. We also have a lot of spices that grow in the region. We're sitting in the middle of a spice garden here. So I figured it'd be kind of fun to do a little bit of a spice challenge. What do we say? All right. pirates actually used to trade in spice, which is why we got kind of a piratey theme going on. That was one of the main things they were running back and forth illegally. So if you ever watch Pirates of the Caribbean and watch it again, you'll be like, oh, spices. And you'll know behind the scenes, Abby was right. I've got here our 2 most expensive spices in the world. What I'm gonna do is open up the jar, let anybody who would like to smell it, and we're trying to guess what it is. So if you know what it is, keep it in your brain until I say what is it. Good deal? All right. On 3, I'm gonna have you shout out what it is. 1, 2, 3. Vanilla. Vanilla, you got it exactly right. Does anybody know why vanilla is so expensive? You have to.
Flower population. Flowers once a year.
Yeah, it flowers once a year. Flower lasts about 24 hours. If you do not live in Mexico or Madagascar, where it's pollinator, which is a kind of wasp lives, you have to use a toothpick to hand pollinate it. So what a vanilla orchid looks like, they have really, really pretty white flowers. You've probably seen it in a lot of yogurt containers. So what happens is vanilla, once you successfully pollinate it, turns into these beans. The beans are going to sit on the vine for quite a while before you can take them off and then dry them. Drying takes between 6 to 12 months, depending on how dry you want your vanilla, and then it can finally go out commercially. So that's about a 2-year process to get 1 vanilla bean. That's why they cost like about $14 a pop. Now we've got the most expensive spice in the entire world. Again, keep it in your brain, and we'll say it all together. On 3, shout it out. 1, 2, 3. Saffron. Saffron, you got it. So saffron is really, really expensive because it grows in one region of the world. It only grows in the Middle East. It has the prettiest flower. I think crocus flowers are my favorite kinds of flowers because some kinds grow in snow, and I think that's awesome. It's also the sigil for Arendelle, if anybody's a Frozen fan like I am. So this crocus flower, they grow them in big fields. They have to hand pick every single one, and they will not grow a new flower, so you have to replant the saffron crocus. After that, instead of using the whole flower, you only use these 3 little stigma, and that's what makes a saffron spice. And they do have to be hand removed from the flower. It takes about 80,000 flowers of saffron to make 1 pound of saffron spice. And that 1 pound of spice can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. So, really expensive. If you ever see cheap saffron, it is more than likely this, which is safflower. It has a similar but not quite as strong taste to it, and it is the entire flower, so it's a lot easier to pick and harvest. I do have one more cool plant I would like to show you before our time ends today. It's actually right over here. This is a black pepper. It is the shape of Mickey Mouse, very exciting. And it is the oldest plant in our entire greenhouse. He's not quite 40 like EPCOT, but he is turning 21 this year. And there's no better place to celebrate your 21st birthday than EPCOT. We really appreciate you being here. I have thoroughly enjoyed being your guide today. On our way back, I will point out some more very cool plants, so keep your earpieces in. Once we get out of the greenhouses and kind of back to the biotechnology lab area, that's when we'll remove them and wrap them up and everything. But I'll give you more instructions next to know it's a lot of information right now. But again, thank you so much. If you like the tour, my name is Abby. If you didn't, my name is Emily, who is my best friend. So please don't actually say that because she's really great. All right, friends, you're going to follow me back the way that we came. They have no bark, so they are not actually trees. Okay, so I don't bark.
While there are more than 50,000 edible plant species in the world, most of them
You'll actually get lemongrass from over here. They will all roll it and blend it with tea. You can use it to we do not produce enough to give to restaurants to grow. Instead, they go to them and they like to pick them up and then smash them, which would be so much fun to see.
It hurts.
So the fruits are not engineered to be shaped like Mickey. Instead, we put babies in these molds, and as they grow out, they reach the Mickey shape. So if you see on the left here, we got a picture of garden grill salad with Mickey numbers in it.
And if you look over your left hand shoulder as you walk the NFC system, you'll see some Mickey pumpkins in flowers and becoming Mickey trees. So we're going to get those. They're custom made and they come out I don't know those conditions. I do not have that.
by growing the ground in its place, you can increase yield
Behind the scenes, I think, better than caring for giants.
I don't agree. Though I really love Caring for the Giants, and I loved Behind the Scenes and how we got to kind of tie the two together based on like how they grow food over there versus how they grow food over here. Though you didn't get to see the food growing part for the Caring for the Giants because that was all backstage. But it was really cool, and I think it's worth going, especially if you're like a plant enthusiast.
Plant person.
Yeah, if you're a plant person, it's no-brainer. You should do it, especially because it's only an hour and it's like super cheap.
Yeah, it passes really quickly. If you're worried about like having to stand for an hour, it's really not that bad.
It's really not.
I actually gave you benches like halfway through to sit down if you wanted to, but it's a very informative, very fun, very lighthearted, and it goes by really quickly. I definitely recommend it.
I agree.
Oh, if you guys want to see us do other tours, by all means, let us know in the comments below. If there's anything else, it doesn't have to be Disney, period, that you'd like to see us, that's also the place to find us. Hit the notification bell if you want to see other videos like this, and
we have new videos 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
we'll see you soon.
Be sure to subscribe and like this video. Like the video. And if you don't comment, I'm pretty sure Bear is just going to yeet the camera over the land and never film again.
This thing costs way too much money. I'm definitely not doing that. But you heard the girl.